So we just got our first official gameplay reveal for Borderlands 4 in a whopping 20-minute state of play presentation, and I gotta say, it's looking good. We got a much needed look at the game itself, what it's actually gonna look like when we play. I still love the way it looks. It looks very much like Borderlands 3, but looks more crisp, and that's probably just due to the new engine. Obviously, the whole point of this was to show off the gameplay, some of the new things that they're doing. I haven't played Destiny in quite some time, but from when I did, it's reminding me a lot of it, especially from the more open world nature of things, the world events that can pop up, the fact that you can just summon a vehicle. I cannot tell you how much I'm going to love that change. I love you, Scooter. I love you, Ellie. But I always have hated having to go to a catch-a-ride station to get a vehicle. And I'm sure this is going to be something like, oh, Ellie's been working on this new portable catch-a-ride type thing. Skill trees look massive, the whole gun parts from different manufacturers. I'll be honest, I never really paid attention to that anyway. I just pick up the gun and I shoot. And I'm probably going to do the same thing here. But these aren't what you're here to hear me talk about. What you want is the lore, the story, the characters. What new things did we learn? Did we learn new things? And the answer to that is yes. Quite a bit, actually. Probably the most important one, and the one that I'm most excited about, are learning about the characters. In the initial teaser, we just got a glimpse of them walking, which sparked a ton of unnecessary controversy because we got absolutely nothing about them, who they are, and didn't get that many clear shots of them. Overall, it was disappointing not getting much of the thing most people are excited about, which are the Vault Hunters. But now that has been mended, as now we know so much more about these four, including their names, backstories, and some of their abilities. So allow me to introduce each of the four characters. First and foremost, the one most Borderlands fans are probably excited for is the ever-classic Siren, and her name is Vex. Her backstory is that she had a rough upbringing that was made more complicated by receiving her siren powers. Her cynical and sarcastic demeanor comes from having to fend for herself and scrape for everything she's got. But underneath her salty exterior, Vex is an empath who knows better than anyone how much life can suck. Ever the pessimist, Vex still believes in helping others, and if helping others means dealing damage to oppressive jerks, Vex will always be first in line. It should come as no shock to anyone that Vex is the one I am most interested in out of the four, because sirens are the linchpin to this franchise, and they're only becoming more and more important with each passing game. And I have a feeling they're going to be pretty damn important in this one. Funnily enough, despite seeing her powers, which I still have no idea how to describe them, I still cannot tell whose powers these are. Like, we've been left wondering if Vex possesses either Tyrene's power of the Phase Leech or Commandant Steele's mystery power, which literally we're working with zero information on. However, I am pretty confident in saying that, unless they throw in a curveball, these have to be Steele's powers. Because now, based on the snippet of backstory we've been given, it said she had the powers since when she was younger, during her upbringing. We don't exactly know how old Vex is, but she has to be fairly young for that statement to make sense. And while I don't think it's been stated how long the time gap in between the events of Borderlands 3 and Borderlands 4 is going to be, it can't be that long. It can't be over a decade. It's probably just a few years at best, whereas Steele died at minimum 13 years ago. And I say minimum because that time frame is to the end of Borderlands 3, so 13 years plus how many more to the events of Borderlands 4. So if Vex is in her late teens, early 20s, and she got the powers when she was a child and not at birth, it adds up. The leading theory is that this could still be Emily Swan. This is who people thought she was prior to knowing her name and backstory. However, despite getting her name and backstory, it's not like that theory is just dead. There's no saying Vex is her real name. It could just be the name she goes by now. And since we were just talking about her age, that too still adds up. When she was a kid, Emily was dying until the Watcher saved her, which happened around the time of Steele's death. If you're looking at the imagery of her character and action skill, she has a lot of imagery of death. She has a Grim Reaper ability where she wields a scythe. Her wings are less angelic and more demonic, like she's an angel of death. Siren powers are said to evolve and adapt to each person, and since being so close to death was such a pivotal point in Emily's life, who's to say it didn't manifest in evolving her siren powers? But the biggest hurdle, however, now with this theory is her attitude. For someone who is described as cynical and sarcastic and salty from knowing how much life sucks, that's a hurdle to believe Emily would be like that, considering how loving her mother was and how much she cared. Unless her mother, instantly died when they went to Pandora, and she had to live life alone and fend for herself right off the bat. Then her attitude and having to work for everything in her life would make sense. However, that is still just a theory. I don't want to push the Emily Swan theory too much. I know Epic NNG is fiending for this, but it's still just a theory, but one that I don't think is just gone away. Either way, I'm excited to learn more about Vex. The second new character is Rafa, who's classed as the Exo Soldier. Rafa was born and raised in microgravity, which severely altered his bone density and musculature, making it impossible for him to survive elsewhere. Desperate to explore, he signed up to Tedior's military force. In exchange for a tour of duty, his body was altered for a new kind of exosuit. But when it became clear that Tedior never intended to end his service, Rafa went AWOL. Now, he's on the run and plans to enjoy whatever time he has left before his Tedior dead frame ends him for good. So Rafa is an ex-Tedior soldier. Now, initially when I read his backstory, I was very iffy on it because to me, it was very reminiscent of Wilhelm's backstory, because Wilhelm had a very similar thing going on. He had bone waste, which made his bones very brittle, but he started getting cybernetic implants to make him stronger and enable him to be a badass. And Rafa has a very similar thing going on. His body is inherently weak and he's using technology to offset that and enable him. However, depending on how Borderlands 4's story goes, I think it still is very interesting, as the characters in this game are going to play a more active role in the story than ever before. Typically in Borderlands fashion, the main characters are just there for color commentary, and it never felt like we were included in things as they were happening. And it sure as hell never felt like they got any development over the course of the story. You always had to wait till the next game to get more out of the Vault Hunters you were playing. But it's looking like in this game they're trying to have the characters be more involved in the story and cutscenes. So to have someone who is dying can add a unique element to the whole thing. And unlike Wilhelm, Rafa hasn't solved his problem. He doesn't have a cybernetic implant addiction nor a desire to be a robot, at least for now. The next character is Harlow as the Gravitar? Harlow is a former Maliwan combat scientist driven by the need to understand how things work. While this initially made her an outcast amongst her Trant relatives, Harlow has used her intellect to bring new tech and gadgetry to the battlefield as a Vault Hunter. Harlow's brilliance is apparent in everything she does, but so is her enthusiasm and love for life. Harlow brings everything to the fight, including her sunny disposition. Always ready to give a beatdown, her spirit can't be beat. So yes, you heard that right. Harlow is a member of the Trant family. People were speculating this when they first saw her, as well as her being former Maliwan. I mean, at that point, you gotta give it to the designers. Her clothes really did evoke Maliwan and Trant vibes. So yeah, we're getting not one, but two ex-mega corporation soldiers. Typically, it's been one. Roland was Atlas, Axton was Dahl, Mose was Vladov, now Rafa is Tedior, and Harlow is Maliwan. At this point, we got someone who's got a vendetta against every mega corporation. Her being a Trant, I'm sure, is gonna be very fun. I'm sure she and Zane are gonna have some pretty fun banter about their family members. But overall, we didn't learn much about her or what she could do. And the fourth and final Vault Hunter is Amon as the Forge Knight. Amon was raised in a Vault monster worshipping cult, until the vault was opened and the creature turned on everyone he loved. As the only survivor, he dedicates his life to finding and killing as many of these beasts as he can. Amon, a warrior poet, is introspective and unflinching to his duty, but despite his hardened appearance, he has a warm attitude, often regaling comrades in arms with stories and advice earned throughout his travels. I do really like this backstory. It makes sense that there had to have been some cults out there worshipping vaults like they were gods. His appearance does match his backstory. I do wish he had less technology on him though. Like Rafa and Harlow are already very tech-oriented, so I just wish he was more human all around, I guess, if that makes sense. But that's just me. He was someone we also didn't get much about, so I'm very interested to learn more about his cult and the supposed journeys that he went on. Realistically, this is how these 4 should have been introduced in the first place instead of just that teaser walk. It would have saved a lot of unnecessary criticism. Just getting their names, their backstories goes far, and now I'm excited to learn more about all of them and see how they interact in the story and cutscenes. One of the other interesting things about this trailer is how they set up Kairos. They describe it as a planet that has purposely been hidden for thousands of years by the Timekeeper, all so he could control it and effectively rule over it the way he wanted to, I guess. The most shocking thing about it to me is how much more of a normal planet it is than I would have expected. I was kind of thinking its seclusion was done on purpose more because of the Iridians wanting to keep it hidden, as opposed to someone on the planet wanting to keep it hidden. And so now, by virtue of it being the latter, the planet itself has become much more normal. There's a ruler in the form of the Timekeeper. His army, the Order, rule over the citizens that are just normal people living on the planet. Now, there's obviously probably going to be more nuance to it than just the Timekeeper having Omega OCD and wanting his perfect planet where he can keep everything organized the way he wants to. Like, what is he doing? Why is he doing it? Like, what is the purpose of it all is something we're probably going to have to find out when the game releases. But obviously, Nereid knew of the Timekeeper, so maybe she met him before he hid the planet. Why would the Timekeeper not be in a vault? Why is he allowed to just be out and about? These are all questions we have to wait and see. Also, by virtue of this, we learn more about the inhabitants of the planet, like how they were all being controlled by the Timekeeper via cybernetic implants fused to their spines. So it would make sense that this is how the Rippers came to be. If I had to guess, they are the ones who have ripped out their implants and joined together to fight back. Now that Elpis has crashed onto the planet and disrupted the Timekeeper's perfect order, it has inspired others to embrace the chaos. So yeah, I don't think the Rippers are an opposing faction at all. In addition, we get a look at some of the new characters again, some new ones amongst them. The returning characters, we knew Zane was going to be in it, but now we see Moxie alongside him. Loving her new look, by the way. I'm not gonna lie, her Borderlands 3 design was my least favorite by like a country mile. But we also get to see Amara. She quite literally got the highlight of this state of play. It makes sense, she is a siren, and better she remains actively involved with the Crimson Raiders than to have to find her on a random planet again because they wrote her off as just wanting to do something else. She's still here. She's still involved in everything going on, which is good. So by virtue, Ava is probably still the commander of the Crimson Raiders, Tannis is still on board, we're looking for Lilith, and now we have Vex. That's 5 sirens actively involved in this game, so I'm pretty hyped about that. But that's about all I can think to talk about for this video. Honestly, a great state of play. They were just like, here's all the new things we're adding and you can do, all over the course of 20 minutes. If you haven't watched it, then I recommend you check it out because they quite literally just explain all of the new things themselves. I think this generated some much needed hype, but I want to know what you all thought of Borderlands 4. Did this reignite your hype for the game? Were you already hyped? What do you think of the 4 new Vault Hunters and their backstories, and all of the gameplay mechanics that are new and returning? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Any and all thoughts, be sure to let me know in the comments below, and until next time, I'll see you in the next video.